Lucas Sterling counted 3 things wrong the moment he entered his office at exactly 9 a.m. 1. Someone was sitting in his chair. 2. His daughter was supposed to be in the executive daycare, not standing beside his desk holding a spray bottle like a weapon. 3. The stranger in his Italian leather sanctuary, his fortress, his holy ground, was sound asleep. He didn't move. Couldn't. The woman's brown hair had escaped its clip, falling across a face softened by exhaustion. Her blue janitor's uniform was wrinkled. Her shoes lay abandoned on the floor he had cleaned twice daily. Her chest rose and fell in the deep, defenseless rhythm of someone who hadn't slept properly in weeks. And she was snoring. "Daddy?" Bella whispered, delighted. She just sat down and fell asleep, like a princess. Lucas's hand tightened around his briefcase. This woman had no idea what she'd done. No idea that this room was off limits to everyone, cleaning staff included. No idea that chaos was the enemy Lucas had spent 4 years eliminating from every corner of his existence. No idea that in 30 seconds, when he woke her, she would grab his wrist to steady herself, and Lucas Sterling's entire world would shatter along with his phone. But he didn't know that yet. So he picked up the metal ruler from his desk and tapped it once against the wood. The sound cracked through the room like a whip. Chloe Miller jolted awake with a gasp that tore from her throat. Her eyes flew open, wild, disoriented, flooded with the kind of panic that comes from waking in the wrong place at the wrong time. She saw the man first. Tall, tailored suit so sharp it could cut. Face carved from granite and morning light. Eyes the color of winter storms, fixed on her with an intensity that made her stomach drop. Then she saw the child. A little girl in a red dress, frozen mid-giggle, staring at her like she'd discovered buried treasure. Then she saw the skyline. Floor-to-ceiling windows, Silicon Beach spreading out 40 stories below, glass and steel and money. Oh, God. "I'm so sorry," Chloe blurted, scrambling upright so fast the chair spun beneath her. "Please, I just closed my eyes for a second. I swear I didn't mean to." Her foot caught on the chair leg. She pitched forward. Instinct took over. Her hand shot out, fingers wrapping around the nearest solid thing, the man's wrist, and she held on. The world stopped. Chloe expected him to jerk away, to shout, to hurl her out of his office and call security and end her life as she knew it. None of that happened. Instead, the CEO of Sterling Tech, because she knew who he was now, everyone knew who Lucas Sterling was, stood perfectly still. His breath caught. His eyes widened just slightly, with something that looked almost like shock or wonder. For 3 impossible seconds, they stood connected, skin to skin, his pulse hammering beneath her fingertips. Then he moved. He jerked backward so violently that his phone, sitting on the edge of the desk, went flying. It struck the marble floor with a crack that sounded like a gunshot. The screen shattered into 1,000 glittering pieces. Bella gasped. Chloe's hand flew to her mouth. Lucas Sterling stared at the ruined device. Silence flooded the room, thick, suffocating, dangerous. Chloe's mind raced through calculations. Hospital bills, her mother's medications, the 3 jobs she worked to stay afloat, the art degree she'd abandoned, the future she'd already mortgaged. And now this. If you think Chloe's life just got destroyed, you have no idea what Lucas is about to do next. Welcome to Dad's Redemption Stories, where single fathers don't just survive, they transform. Subscribe now, because what happens when Lucas discovers the cost of that phone will leave you speechless. "That phone," Lucas said quietly, his voice like frost over gravel. is a prototype. Encrypted, irreplaceable. Chloe couldn't breathe. It's worth approximately $83,000. The number hit her like a physical blow. Her knees weakened. The room tilted. $83,000. She made $18 an hour cleaning offices. She would have to work for... Her brain couldn't even calculate it. Years. Decades. Forever. I don't... Her voice broke. I can't. I know, Lucas said. He was still staring at his wrist, at the place where her fingers had touched him. His expression was unreadable, something between confusion and fascination, and something darker she couldn't name. Bella tugged on her father's sleeve. Daddy, she didn't mean to. Lucas didn't answer his daughter. Instead, he looked at Chloe with those winter storm eyes and said the words that would change everything. We need to talk about how you're going to pay me back. 2 days had passed since Chloe Miller destroyed a phone worth more than her life. She sat in the waiting room of Sterling Tech's executive floor, surrounded by glass and steel and the kind of silence that costs money. Her cleaning uniform had been replaced by the only professional clothes she owned, a wrinkled blouse and pants she'd worn to her mother's last hospital consultation. Her hands wouldn't stop shaking. The secretary, a woman with perfect hair and a smile like a knife, had brought her water 3 times. Chloe hadn't touched any of it. She'd cried the first night, ugly, heaving sobs that shook her entire body while her mother slept in the next room, hooked to machines that beeped their expensive rhythm. The second night, she'd laughed, hysterical, broken laughter that scared her more than the crying because it meant something inside her had fractured. $83,000. The number had carved itself into her skull. She'd done the math. With her current income, minus rent, minus food, minus her mother's medications that insurance wouldn't cover, she could pay it back in approximately never. The door opened. Lucas Sterling stood in the threshold, backlit by the morning sun streaming through his office windows. He looked exactly as he had 2 days ago. Perfectly tailored, perfectly controlled, perfectly untouchable. Ms. Miller, he said, come in. Chloe's legs barely held her as she stood. His office was exactly as she remembered. Italian leather chair, glass desk, skyline view that made her dizzy. Except now she could see details she'd missed while panicking. The desk was completely bare except for a single pen aligned at a perfect 90-degree angle. No photos, no personal items, no evidence that a human being worked here. Sit, Lucas said. She sat. He remained standing, hands clasped behind his back, studying her with an intensity that made her want to disappear. I've reviewed your financial situation, he said. Chloe's stomach dropped. How did you... Background check. Standard procedure for anyone who damages company property. He paused. Your mother has stage 3 cancer. You work 3 jobs. You dropped out of art school in your final semester. You have $17 in your checking account. Heat flooded Chloe's face. Shame, rage, humiliation. You have no savings, no assets, and no way to pay me back. Lucas continued, his voice clinical, detached. Is that correct? Yes, Chloe whispered. Then we have a problem. She waited for him to call security, to press charges, to end her. Instead, he walked to the window and stared out at the city below. My daughter, he said quietly, has had 3 nannies in 6 months. They all quit. Chloe blinked. I don't understand. I'm offering you a solution. He turned to face her. You'll work off the debt, not as a janitor, as Bella's live-in nanny. The words took a moment to register. Live-in? Chloe repeated. My Malibu residence. You'll have your own room. Meals provided. Salary of $2,000 per month, which will be applied directly to your debt. At that rate, you'll be free in approximately 3.5 years. 3.5 years? Chloe's mind spun. 3.5 years of her life, locked into a contract with a man who looked at her like she was a particularly interesting specimen under glass. There are rules, Lucas continued. Non-negotiable. I require order, cleanliness, punctuality. You will follow Bella's schedule exactly. No deviations, no mess, no... He stopped, his jaw tightening almost imperceptibly. No physical contact with me. Something cold slithered down Chloe's spine. What if I refuse? She asked. Then I'll file a civil suit, garnish your wages, put a lien on any future assets. Your mother's medical debt will become unmanageable. You'll lose everything. He said it without malice, just facts, mathematical certainty. Chloe thought of her mother's face, the way she smiled even when the pain made her gasp, the way she pretended the medical bills weren't drowning them both. When do I start? Chloe whispered. Lucas picked up a folder from his desk. He'd prepared everything in advance, she realized. He'd known she would say yes because she had no choice. Tonight. My driver will collect you at 6. He handed her the contract. 47 pages of legal language that might as well have been a prison sentence. One more thing, Lucas said as she stood to leave. Bella doesn't know about the phone or the debt. As far as she's concerned, you're here because I hired you, nothing more. Why? Chloe asked. For the first time, something flickered across his face, something almost human. Because she's already lost enough, he said. The Malibu mansion wasn't a home, it was a museum. Chloe stood in the entryway that evening, backpack clutching like armor, and stared at perfection. White walls, white floors, white furniture arranged at precise angles. Not a speck of dust, not a photograph, not a single sign that a child lived here. This way, Lucas said, his voice echoing in the cavernous space. He led her down a hallway lined with empty frames, as if someone had removed every memory and left only the ghosts of what had been. Her room was at the end, small, sterile, with a single window overlooking the ocean. Bella's room is next door, Lucas said. She wakes at 7. Breakfast at 7:30, school drop-off at 8:15. You'll find her schedule on the refrigerator. Where's Bella now? Chloe asked. Asleep. You'll meet her tomorrow. He paused in the doorway. The rules, Miss Miller. I meant what I said. This house operates on order. Chaos is not welcome here. Why? The question escaped before she could stop it. Why do you need everything so controlled? Lucas's expression went cold. Because chaos burns, he said. Then he closed the door, leaving Chloe alone in her sterile cell, wondering what kind of prison she'd just entered. Bella was chaos incarnate. Chloe discovered this exactly 14 hours after Lucas Sterling told her chaos wasn't welcome. The 8-year-old exploded into the kitchen at 7:02 a.m. Not 7, not 7:30. Wearing mismatched socks, a tutu over her school uniform, and a tiara that caught the morning light like a declaration of war. You're the sleeping lady, she announced, pointing at Chloe with the kind of delighted recognition usually reserved for celebrities. From Daddy's office, are you magic? Chloe, who'd been staring at the 15-item breakfast schedule Lucas had left on the refrigerator, blinked. What? You made Daddy not yell. Nobody makes Daddy not yell. Bella climbed onto a stool, white leather, naturally, and studied Chloe with eyes exactly like her father's. So you must be magic. Before Chloe could respond, Lucas entered. He stopped mid-step. His gaze moved from Bella's tutu to the tiara to the mismatched socks. Something flickered across his face. Frustration, maybe, or pain, before the mask slammed back into place. Bella, upstairs, proper uniform. But Daddy, now. The word was soft, final. Bella's shoulders slumped. The light in her eyes dimmed. She slid off the stool and trudged toward the stairs, tutu dragging behind her like a defeated flag. Chloe's chest tightened. "She's 8, she said quietly. Lucas turned those winter eyes on her. "I'm aware of my daughter's age." "Then maybe let her wear the tutu." Silence crashed between them. "The rules exist for a reason, Ms. Miller," Lucas said, his voice dropping to something dangerous. "I suggest you remember that." He left before she could respond. But Chloe had already decided something in that moment. Watching Bella's small figure disappear up the stairs, she was going to break his rules. Just a little. Just enough to let a child breathe. It started small. Chloe let Bella wear the tutu under her school uniform, invisible rebellion. She added chocolate chips to the precisely measured oatmeal. She played music during the silent car ride to school. Bella bloomed like a flower finding sunlight. Within a week, the house began to change. A crayon drawing appeared on the refrigerator. Paint smudges marked the pristine kitchen table. Laughter, actual, uncontrolled laughter, echoed through rooms that had only known silence. Lucas noticed. Of course he noticed. Chloe would catch him standing in doorways, watching them. His expression unreadable, his hands clenched at his sides like he was physically restraining himself from imposing order. But he didn't stop her. That was the strange part. He observed, documented, controlled himself instead of his environment. If you think Lucas is just being generous, you're wrong. Something about Chloe is breaking through his carefully constructed walls, and what happens next will shatter everything. Don't miss it. Subscribe to Dad's redemption stories now. "Why doesn't Daddy play with us?" Bella asked one afternoon. They were painting in the living room, another rule broken, another boundary crossed. Chloe had spread newspapers over the white carpet, but she knew Lucas would see the evidence, would know what she'd done. "Maybe he doesn't know how," Chloe said carefully. "He used to." Bella's brush hovered over the paper. "Before Mommy died, before the fire." Chloe's hand stilled. "There was a fire?" Bella nodded, her small face suddenly too serious. "At our old house. Daddy tried to save Mommy, but she was already gone. He got burned really bad. Now he doesn't like people touching him because it hurts his skin." The pieces clicked into place with sickening clarity. The germophobia, the control, the rigid boundaries, the way Lucas had jerked back when Chloe grabbed his wrist, except he hadn't reacted the way Bella described. He hadn't screamed, hadn't recoiled in pain. He'd looked shocked, like something impossible had happened. The storm came 3 weeks later. Chloe woke to thunder rattling the windows, rain hammering the glass like fists. She'd grown used to the mansion's sounds, the hum of the filtration system, the tick of expensive clocks, the ocean's whisper. But this was different. This was rage. She found Lucas in his bedroom doorway at 2 a.m., one hand braced against the frame, the other pressed to his chest. His eyes were wide, unfocused. His breath came in short, sharp gasps. He didn't see her, didn't hear her approach. He was somewhere else, somewhere burning. "Mr. Sterling," Chloe said softly. No response. His knees buckled. She moved without thinking. She caught him. Her hands found his shoulders, his arms, guiding him to the floor. He collapsed against her, trembling, gasping, drowning in invisible smoke. "Breathe with me," Chloe said. She pressed her palm flat against his chest, over his heart, felt it hammering like a trapped bird. "In through your nose. Out through your mouth, with me, in." She breathed. He tried, failed. "Again," she said. "You're safe. The fire's not here. You're in Malibu. It's just a storm in." This time he followed. One breath, 2, 3. The panic broke like fever. Lucas's eyes focused, found hers, realized where he was, who was touching him, what had just happened. They stared at each other in the darkness, rain drumming overhead, her hand still pressed against his chest. "You touched me," he whispered. "Yes." "It didn't." His voice cracked. "Why didn't it hurt?" Chloe had no answer. Lucas reached up slowly, carefully, and wrapped his fingers around her wrist, the same way she'd grabbed him in his office 4 weeks ago. Testing. Proving. His eyes widened. "What are you?" he breathed. Before Chloe could answer, a small voice called from down the hall. "Daddy?" They broke apart. Lucas stood, straightened, rebuilt his walls in seconds. When Bella appeared in the doorway, rubbing her eyes, he was already moving toward her. But he stopped just before touching her shoulder. Old habits. "Go back to bed, sweetheart," he said, his voice only slightly unsteady. Bella looked between her father and Chloe, sensing something she couldn't name. "Bad dream?" she asked. "Just a storm," Lucas said. After Bella left, Lucas turned back to Chloe. "Thank you," he said quietly. Then, even quieter, "Don't tell anyone what you saw." "I won't." He started to leave, then stopped. "Ms. Miller, the tutu, the paint, the music." He paused. "Don't stop." Then he disappeared into the darkness, leaving Chloe alone with the knowledge that she'd just become something dangerous. The only person who could touch Lucas Sterling without causing pain. And neither of them understood why. The woman arrived on a Tuesday morning in a black Mercedes and a smile that could cut glass. Chloe was teaching Bella to make pancakes, badly, with flour everywhere and batter on the ceiling, when the doorbell rang. Through the kitchen window, she watched Lucas answer, watched his entire body go rigid, watched something like fear flash across his face before the mask returned. "Bella," he called, his voice carefully controlled. "Your grandmother is here." The spatula slipped from Bella's hand. "Grandma Victoria?" she whispered. Chloe had heard the name, Lucas's late wife's mother, the woman who called every Sunday at exactly 3 p.m., and reduced Bella to anxious silence for hours afterward. Victoria Chen swept into the kitchen like winter itself. She was elegant in the way money makes people elegant, in designer suit, perfect posture, eyes that cataloged everything and found it wanting. Her gaze moved from the flour-covered counters to Chloe's paint-stained shirt to Bella's messy hair. "Darling," she said to Bella, her voice honey over poison, "you look energetic." Then she turned to Lucas. "I need to speak with you. Privately." Lucas's jaw tightened. "Victoria, now." They disappeared into his home office. The door closed with a soft click that somehow sounded like a gunshot. Bella stared at the ruined pancakes. "She hates mess," she whispered. "She says Daddy can't take care of me properly because of his what?" Chloe asked gently. "His broken brain. That's what she calls it." Rage, white-hot and sudden, flooded Chloe's chest. 30 minutes later, Victoria emerged alone. She found Chloe cleaning the kitchen, Bella reading quietly in the corner, all evidence of chaos erased. "So, you're the new nanny," Victoria said, studying Chloe like a specimen. The fourth one this year? Third, Chloe corrected. How much is he paying you? The question was a trap. Chloe felt it. That's between Mr. Sterling and myself? Victoria's smile sharpened. Of course. I'm sure the live-in arrangement is quite convenient. A young woman, a wealthy widower, all very modern. It's not like that, isn't it? Victoria moved closer. Tell me, dear, what does your contract say about the nature of your employment? Because Lucas has always been so careful about paperwork. Meticulous, you might say. Controlling. Chloe said nothing. I've been concerned about my granddaughter. Victoria continued, her voice dropping. Living with a man who suffers from severe psychological trauma, who can't even touch his own child without having a panic attack, who hires live-in staff under such unusual circumstances. He's getting better, Chloe said. Is he? Or are you just enabling his dysfunction? Victoria's eyes narrowed. I've seen the security footage. The paint, the mess, the complete abandonment of structure. You're not helping him, dear. You're making him worse. That's not... I have lawyers. Victoria's voice went cold. Very good lawyers. The kind who specialize in custody cases, who understand how courts view fathers with documented mental health issues, especially when combined with questionable living arrangements. Chloe's blood turned to ice. You're threatening to take Bella. I'm protecting my granddaughter. Victoria picked up her purse. From a father who's one panic attack away from complete collapse, and from staff who blur professional boundaries. She paused at the door. Lucas has always been fragile, ever since the fire. One good push and everything he's built will crumble. I suggest you think carefully about your role in that collapse. The door closed softly behind her. Chloe stood frozen in the pristine kitchen, understanding blooming like poison. Victoria hadn't come to visit. She'd come to gather ammunition. If you think Chloe can fight this battle, you don't know what's coming next. This is where everything falls apart. Stay with Dad's redemption stories, because some fathers have to lose everything before they can finally win. That evening, Chloe packed. She moved through her sterile room like a ghost, folding clothes she'd barely unpacked. In 6 weeks, this place had never felt like home. Maybe that was the point. She'd heard Lucas and Victoria arguing after the woman left, heard her voice through the walls, debt-based servitude, and psychological manipulation, and unfit parent. Heard Lucas's silence in response. She understood the calculation now. Victoria would use the contract against him, would paint Chloe as evidence of Lucas's poor judgment, his inability to maintain proper boundaries, his spiral into dysfunction. And she'd be right. Not about Lucas being unfit. He was a good father, learning to be better, but about the optics. A live-in nanny working off a massive debt. A man who couldn't touch his own daughter hiring someone who could touch him. It looked exactly as bad as Victoria wanted it to look. Chloe was a liability, and the only way to protect Lucas and Bella was to remove herself from the equation. She left a note on the kitchen counter. I'm sorry. This is better for everyone. Then she went to Bella's room one last time. The little girl was asleep, surrounded by the artwork they'd created together. Chloe had planned to frame them, to cover the white walls with color. Now someone else would have to do it. She pressed a kiss to Bella's forehead. Soft, gentle, goodbye. Be brave, she whispered. Then she walked out of the museum mansion and back into the chaos of her real life, leaving Lucas Sterling to his sterile perfection. Lucas found the note at dawn. He read it 3 times. Then he walked to Bella's room and found his daughter awake, staring at the empty doorway where Chloe should have appeared with breakfast and laughter and light. "She left," Bella said. Not a question, a fact. "Yes. Because of Grandma Victoria." Lucas's chest tightened. His daughter was too perceptive, too aware, too much like him. "Bella, everyone leaves, Daddy, because you're too broken to fix." The words hit him like a physical blow. His daughter, his beautiful, brilliant daughter, believed she wasn't worth fighting for, believed chaos was dangerous, believed love meant loss, because he'd taught her that. For 4 years, Lucas had controlled everything to prevent pain, had eliminated mess to eliminate risk, had built walls to keep everyone safe. And in doing so, he'd imprisoned them both. The storm outside his office, Chloe's hand on his chest, the panic breaking, the impossible warmth. Why didn't it hurt? Because it wasn't chaos. It was connection. And Lucas Sterling had spent 4 years afraid of the wrong thing. He looked at his daughter, really looked, and made a choice. "Get dressed," he said. "Why?" "Because we're going to get her back." Victoria Chen's assistant answered on the second ring. "Put her on," Lucas said. "Mr. Sterling, she's in a meeting." "Now." Silence. Then Victoria's voice, smooth and dangerous. "Lucas, what a surprise. We need to talk. I'm listening." Lucas stood in his home office, the same room where Victoria had threatened him yesterday, and felt something shift inside his chest. 4 years of fear. 4 years of control. 4 years of being exactly who she'd always said he was. Broken. "You were right," Lucas said quietly. He heard her satisfaction even through the phone. "About what specifically?" "I've been unfit, not because of my mental health, because I've been so terrified of losing Bella that I forgot how to be her father. Lucas, I let you bully me, let you weaponize my trauma, let you convince me that control was the same thing as protection." His voice hardened. "I'm done. You think one speech changes anything?" Victoria's voice went cold. "I have documentation, therapy records, the contract with your nanny, one call to my lawyers. Make it." Lucas cut her off. "Take me to court. Question my mental health. Expose every panic attack, every boundary, every failure. I'll answer every question honestly. Then you'll lose. Maybe. But I'll lose fighting for my daughter instead of hiding from you. And Bella will see that." He paused. "She'll see that I chose her over fear. That's more than I've shown her in 4 years." Silence stretched between them. "You have no idea what you're risking," Victoria said finally. "Yes, I do, and I'm risking it anyway." He hung up. His hands were shaking. His heart was racing. But for the first time since the fire, Lucas Sterling felt like himself. The hospital was 40 minutes away. Lucas found Chloe in the oncology wing, sitting beside a bed where a thin woman slept surrounded by machines. The resemblance was obvious. Same brown hair, same delicate features, same exhaustion carved into bone. Chloe looked up as he entered. Her eyes widened. "Mr. Sterling." Lucas pulled the contract from his jacket pocket. Then he tore it in half. The sound seemed impossibly loud in the quiet room. "What are you doing?" Chloe whispered. "Fixing a mistake." He tore it again and again, until 47 pages of legal bondage became confetti. "I hired you because I needed control over someone. I fell in love with you because you saved me." Chloe stood slowly, pieces of contract falling from her lap. "You can't. Victoria will use this against you. Let her." Lucas stepped closer. "I've spent 4 years protecting Bella from pain by hiding from life. All I've done is teach her that love means loss. That connection is dangerous. that chaos should be feared. It should be, Chloe said. Look what it cost you. No. Lucas shook his head. The fire cost me my wife. Fear cost me everything else. Behind them, the door burst open. Bella ran in, still wearing her pajamas, Lucas's assistant trailing apologetically behind. Daddy said you're coming home. Bella launched herself at Chloe, wrapping small arms around her waist. He said he's going to fight for us. Chloe looked at Lucas over Bella's head, tears streaming down her face. I can't pay you back, she said. I can't give you anything. Yes, you can. Lucas did something he hadn't done in 4 years. Something reckless. Something terrifying. He stepped forward and touched Chloe's face, palm against her cheek, thumb brushing away tears, fingers trembling but steady. The warmth flooded through him. That impossible calm. That electric connection that shouldn't exist, but did. You can give me this, he whispered. Whatever this is, however it works, just stay. Chloe covered his hand with hers. Okay, she breathed. Bella squeezed between them, creating a knot of tangled arms and laughter and tears. Does this mean we can keep making messes? She asked. Lucas looked at his daughter, his beautiful, chaotic daughter, and smiled. Yes, he said. We can keep making messes. 1 year later, the Malibu mansion was unrecognizable. Paintings covered the walls. Bella's artwork, Chloe's sketches, even Lucas's attempts during family art nights. Toys scattered across floors that had once been pristine. The refrigerator was buried under photos and drawings and grocery lists written in 3 different handwriting styles. It was messy. It was loud. It was home. Lucas held Chloe's hand as they walked along the beach, Bella running ahead with a kite that kept crashing into the sand. His therapist had warned him about triggers, the ocean, the storms, the memories. But Chloe's touch grounded him. Always. Do you ever miss it? She asked. The order, the control. Lucas watched Bella fall, laugh, scramble up covered in sand. No, he said. I was never really in control. I was just terrified. And now? Now I'm still terrified. He squeezed her hand. But I'd rather be terrified and alive than safe and frozen. Bella ran back to them, breathless, grinning. Daddy, come help. The kite won't fly. A year ago, Lucas would have explained the proper technique, would have corrected her form, would have controlled the chaos. Now, he just ran. Chloe watched them, her broken CEO and his wild daughter, and smiled. Some people were too damaged to fix. But maybe fixing wasn't the point. Maybe the point was learning that broken things could still fly. Thank you for watching until the end. Lucas's journey from frozen control to messy. Beautiful connection reminds us that sometimes the bravest thing a father can do is choose love over fear, even when that love looks nothing like he imagined. If this story touched your heart, if you believe in second chances, if you want to see more stories about fathers who fall, fight, and finally find redemption, subscribe to Dad's Redemption Stories right now. Hit that notification bell, because every week we bring you stories about single dads who transform their lives, their children's lives, and prove that being broken doesn't mean being beyond repair. Subscribe now. The next story might be the one that changes everything.